Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome. This is episode number 26. Dave, number 26, week 6 of Coffee with Campus Consultancy. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to know what's in the mug on a Monday morning. Are you coffee, tea, water? What are you getting into? Thank you for joining us if you're tuning in. Today we have an amazing guest, Dave, and we're going to be talking about a topic that's top of mind for many people today about resilience. How do you cope, potentially thrive in some areas of life, but also just the realities of COVID being a pretty tough time. So after this quick introduction, I'm going to introduce Dave and we'll get into the topic for this morning. Dave, my man, good morning.
Morning, Josh. How are you?
I'm well, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. It's a bright and early Monday morning. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. It is a very, very bright and early Monday morning, and even as I do click onto LinkedIn, I'm about to load up the page. I can see all the comments. So if you are watching, comment below. Let us know what you're up to on a Monday. Even in the first news feed for today, like on the right-hand side, it's the second top article on all of LinkedIn. In fact, the top read article this morning is burnout in the pandemic era. And today we're talking about resilience and burnout. So this is a pretty relevant topic for a pretty challenging time right now.
Yeah, great timing.
Yeah, great timing. But a tough thing to chat about. And I think before we even get into it, I just really want to respect and give you a shout out and thank you for being so open to come on and talk about something that is it is pretty personal, like the idea of resilience and getting through some tough times. So when we first started chatting about this, we were talking about kind of your experience from when all the COVID stuff started happening right through until now and all the posting you're doing and all the great stuff, but also how transparent you've been about your process. So when COVID first happened, where in the world are you? For those who don't know you, where are you at in life right now? And what did COVID mean when it first kicked off for you?
Okay, cool. So hi guys, my name is Dave Brubeck. I'm a final year student at Deakin University. When COVID first started, I just came back from Japan. Super lucky. I was in the last bunch of people that could travel before all these lockdowns. But I came back from Japan, as most people do when they come back from traveling, feeling super starry-eyed, ready to take on the world.
Yes.
This year's my year. Nothing can stop me. I distinctly remember telling my friend that this year's going to be a great year. Nothing can stop me. And then COVID happened, and so I think that it's fair and reasonable for me to say that I struggled very much at the start of COVID. I just come back and had a super positive outlook on life. Things felt like they were lining up. I was catching up with the right people, trying to build my own personal brand, and just everything felt like the start. It was just a nice stars aligning moment. And then everything closed. So I actually run a family business too, with my parents. I manage that, and because how small businesses are getting affected a lot too. The news with what's happening in COVID really did affect our household for a bit, as well as just general scares of health and concerns. And I think that a lot of us can relate with the idea that when we first found out that COVID happening, it was just this huge overwhelming moment that wow, okay, this is real,
Yeah.
And
what did that mean? Sorry to jump in. What did that mean for the business? So was that doors shut?
So we were considering shutting our doors, but one of our major business partners remained open, and because we decided that if they were to close, for example, then we'd close, but they just never did. And so it was, even though it was very slow at the start, and it's still been slow now, we're surviving and we're staying open. And now that everything's picking up again, it's a bit better. Realistically, because we work in logistics, it wasn't too bad of a deal, but it was mainly like a mental and emotional tax kind of thing. It's every day we go to work, we are at risk of, maybe getting COVID, even though it's not that big of a risk. But that was something on our minds at the start, definitely.
Yeah. And how did that play into the mindset? So going to work every day and worried to even run the business, we have to put ourselves physically at risk, as well as, as you say, mentally and emotionally. How did you think about that? How did you get through it? Or did you just sort of put up with it each day? Did you change the way you thought about it? Like, how'd you handle it?
Yeah, I definitely remember having conversations with my mother saying that, hey, I don't think we should be open. This was back when, for example, when the news came out that Spain, there were like too many people dying in Spain. Italy was starting to get really big. Like, hey, look, this kind of looked like a really big deal.
Yeah.
And because we were still very tentative with our numbers, right? We hadn't done much testing in Australia. I told her that maybe we should, stop for a week, see how it all goes. But I guess we just decided not to. Well, we didn't decide to. She's my mother, so she had final say. But I remember going to work that week feeling much more anxious than usual, just with the whole global situation in general. But
yeah. And then you're balancing that obviously with full-time studies as well, and leading in student societies and all that sort of stuff. How do you feel like resilience is playing out, and how do you feel like people are coping in the student population?
I think that it's a big ask of students right now. I mean, it's
Massive.
a big ask of the university to be asking students to be able to just remain full-time students and functionally pretend like nothing's happening. I know that universities do have provisions for like special grading schemas, which is great. But I think that the mental toll, especially at the start on students, is very overwhelming, for example.
Yeah, and do you feel like when you say like the uni's kind of saying like pretend like nothing's happening, is that the sort of the feeling that you're getting from the uni? Is that the messaging, or is that the vibe that you get?
It's not so much that nothing. So I know that the university is trying their hardest to accommodate for students, and it's a big unprecedented problem. That's kind of like if you ask the student university committee, like how can they help students? It's a really hard question, a tongue-tied question for them. But I guess it's not so much the messaging that they're giving us. It's this idea that because we still have to remain full-time students, right? We still have to do 4 units. And I'm not sure how many students are in this chat right now, but even just during a normal year, being a full-time student, having all your normal obligations is normally stressful enough, especially when you get to that like week 7, week 8, like all your assessments are due. And then you like slap on a pandemic, slap on like not being able to see your friends, not being able to be in the library with you and see your friends. I think it gets really hard, especially for international students too, right? A lot of people have had to make the hard choice of either staying in a country where they're not with their family and then having to study with like little support because they can't reach out, right? Because international students don't know too many people. So
Yeah. And what are you hearing from other students in terms of, and then we'll obviously switch to some things that are sort of proactive and things that we can do and things we've seen work, but from whether it's your own experience or the experience of others, are there any parts of this that are particularly challenging? I mean, like we know students are amazingly good at being very free-spirited and pretending the world's amazing for weeks 1 through 6. And then all of a sudden exams and assignments pop up as if they never knew they were coming. And every semester we repeat the exact same pattern. But obviously now we've got these added layers of uncertainty and just physical risk and just the vibe of the news and the media. And as you say, being away from family and friends and being isolated. So there's some obviously big challenges. But what are you hearing from students in terms of, are there particular things that they're struggling with that that if people are watching, they can think about, well, maybe we can do something about that or we could focus on that?
Definitely. I think that I think that the one thing that's come up most often is this idea of motivation. Like, how do we stay motivated to not only study, but just be human in this time? It's already a really hard ask to get someone up at like 7, 8 a.m. in the morning. You just want to lay in bed, stay in bed till the world fixes itself kind of thing. And then having to motivate yourself to remain in your studies, remain on top of it. I think that that's been the one key issue for students, and rightfully so too, right?
Yeah. See, I think this is I think this is most of the problem, around like this idea of, well, we want to sort of sit back and let the world fix itself and go back to how it was. Is just like, that's not how the world actually works. And that this idea of, if we want the world to change, like we kind of need to step up to it in some way. And I'm really interested around this idea of, if people are struggling so hard to motivate themselves, is what they're doing something they actually care about? Like if you're pulling yourself out of bed and forcing yourself to go to class and read the textbook and do the lectures, like could that be the signal rather than the noise that, you know what, like maybe this degree, like maybe isn't the perfect fit? Because, you know, I know plenty of people right now who are, gosh, they're struggling, but like they're also like, they're on a mission and they know what they want to work on and solve. And I think if I was at uni, I'd be in that same position. I'd be struggling to pull myself out of bed. But I almost wish that, I don't wish that I'd been through that situation, but I wish I'd had it such a clear black and white put in front of me, like, hey, buddy, you're doing this engineering degree, and guess what? You don't like it at all.
Yeah.
Like, because you can ignore it when uni's awesome, because you're like, oh, I don't really like my degree, but I can go to this club event and have some fun over here, and just ignore the fact that this thing I'm paying 30 grand for is not what I want to do at all. So do you think there's anything in any message in this, that when students are struggling with motivation, like, could that be a message?
Yeah, definitely. I know that one thing that I've been telling myself just in general. So just a quick update for everyone on LinkedIn. I'm posting every day for the whole month of May, just in this idea to try and figure out if I like it or not. Sometimes it's almost as selfish as that, right? Because I think that it's really valuable to share your voice. And I read a book by Austin Kleon, and one of his key, very simple quotes was this idea that in order for you to find your voice, you have to use it. And it was something so simple like that. I was like, you know what? I'm not sure if I'll enjoy sharing my opinions to the world, sharing all this valuable information. But with another quote that I find really important is this idea that what might seem obvious to you isn't obvious to another person, right?
Yes.
And with all this like mental health resilience thing, I'm lucky enough to have like a good support network to help me through these things. But I know that a lot of students don't. And even just being able to share information, tips, and insights for that, I think is so fundamentally important. But to loop back to the idea that if there's a big message here, I think that the one thing COVID-19's taught us is we have to be very comfortable in stillness, and we have to be really able to just sit, because there's almost no, like you said, there's no like lens in which we can ignore the big problems in our life, right? We can't go to parties. We can't hang out with other people. Some days in COVID, you're literally just sitting on your bed and you're like, wow, okay, this is my life now. So it's a really great opportunity to just reflect on your life, on your experiences, what's going good, what's not going so well, and just really ask yourself if it's because it's what you want to be doing, or if it's like anything else is being imposed on you right now. Because now's a great time to fix. I know that it's a lot easier said than done, but now's a great time to really reflect on your life and look at the things that might be not so in sync with with your values.
And Dave, I think you've got a great point there around, let's dig into this idea of like, okay, we want to be motivated, but we also need to be still. And like one's associated with movement, one's associated with stillness. So I think that could be fun. So let's play around and explore that. Sarah, Sabrina, and Laura, also thanks for jumping in on the comments. Great to see you. Good morning to you all. And if you've got 2 cents, if you've got an opinion, if you've got a thought, jump on the link, come on and say hello. We'd love to chat to you and hear your 2 cents as well. I know especially Sarah jumping over at Swinburne University is doing some epic stuff with the Women in STEM Club, running webinars and online events and helping people sort of dig in and find a bit more of that inspiration, if not motivation. So some really great stuff is happening. So Dave, I think that could be a really cool topic. So we want to feel more motivated, and like we know where that kind of comes from, and we can explore that and dig into that a little bit. But also this idea of, you know, maybe slowing down and just stopping for half a second to think and be a bit still and say, you know, is there a bit of a message in this? If you need both of them, how do you think they fit together? And maybe even just from your experience, like over the time in COVID, when have you had those moments of huge inspiration or motivation, like I'm going to post every day? And when have you found the value in the moments of just sitting down and being still?
Yeah. So one thing for me, stillness has played a really important part in COVID, exponentially larger than I ever thought it would, because I guess before, you know, pre-COVID world, I didn't have to be still that often, so I didn't have to reflect on my life nearly as much. But yeah, that's a really good question, because, for example, with posting every day, one thing I found is a huge thing that motivates me is seeing the same like small bunch of students messaging, commenting how much they support everything I'm doing, and it really, you know, like gives you life. You're like, oh, I'm so happy that I'm helping other people and giving them this valuable information. And yet I find that often the loudest voice, the loudest critic voice anyway, is often your own. And it's often you self-doubting yourself, a bunch of imposter syndrome, and you really just unsure if you're doing the right thing within yourself. And I think stillness really helps iron out those problems. I know that stillness is so I guess to quickly touch upon to like the students or everyone that's watching what I mean by stillness, it's like this idea that if right now I ask everyone that's viewing to just sit still with their thoughts, no external things taking the mind, and just simply sit and listen to what your mind's telling you, being able to iron out and just being able to like listen to those voices, let those emotions wane and not taking them too personally kind of thing. Because oh, sorry, I've kind of gotten sidetracked, but with stillness, I think it's so important to just add like a layer of vulnerability. I think that we are our own worst critics, and often when we sit in that stillness, if we don't know how to, we get bombarded by like these really mean comments. I guess it's like, wow, I thought it was of these self depreciating things, but it's also a great time to slow down and reflect, I think.
Yeah, and that's where, I mean, all of these things at an intellectual level make total sense. And where I'm always interested with people is, are we finding a really nice balance of the two, or are we saying we should be still and then we're spending lots of time on social media all day? And like, can those two things truly coexist? Or are they contradicting ideas? And is there a space for contradicting ideas? And is it more of a balancing act? And like, so if I share from my experience, to give you some breathing room for a second, and what I love about this is this stuff is hard and we don't know the answers. That's the format of this show that I like, is it's because you do it in live in front of people, there's like a bit of pressure, but I found doing 26 episodes of this that I think differently when I know that what I'm saying is, being broadcast and some people are listening. So anyway, I kind of like the pressure of it. One of the ways I think about this, for instance, is like, I don't post on social media at all from like Josh the human. Like in terms of like Instagram or Facebook, I still have those accounts because I used to, but I don't share what I'm doing on the weekend on social media. Like I'm not sharing I'm at an event or I'm at a party. Like for me, I found that I was doing that for a complete external validation. Like it was as soon as I stopped, it was like a drug. I remember I went on a holiday and I challenged myself not to post any Instagram photos about the holiday. And for the first 2 or 3 days, it was literal withdrawal syndrome. Like I would have to leave my phone in a different room because I'd want to be on it. And then I kicked that habit in like maybe or late 2017 and barely have since. I think I shared the TED Talk on the Facebook page and that was about it. Like I just haven't touched it. And it's been such a relief. And throughout that whole time, I built Campus because I'm not doing anything for on like Josh outside of Campus. That being said, I use LinkedIn massively on my personal page on the business front. But in my mind, it's it's great for relationship building and meeting cool people. But everything is through the lens of this is professional. This is a platform and a tool that can be used to do really fun stuff. And I think there should be lots of relationships in business and in life, but I see it strictly as a tool that helps this amazing business grow and do good in the world. So like for me, even though that's sort of, I guess would be my answer of I balance the social time of it's part of the workday and it's part of the workday I enjoy and it's creative and I get to talk to people like you. But then like when I'm off on the weekends, like none. Like we won't take our phones out. We'll leave them at home. We won't use them if we go out and see friends. As the laws got lifted on the weekend, we could see friends for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, we don't touch it. And like that for me is then I can have stillness in that space where I can go for a walk with a buddy and I won't touch it. But then when I'm back in work mode, like with you right now, it's 8 o'clock on a Monday and we're live streaming on LinkedIn. So I don't know, for me, that just works. But it's hard to leave it. There's 99 notifications right now because of a post we put out on Friday and we had a whole bunch of events. And like, I want to go in and reply to all of them. But I put it in my calendar and I say, this afternoon, half an hour, reply to LinkedIn comments. And like, it's parked and then I can have space for the rest of the day.
Yeah. So I guess to touch on like my my version of that because I'm still a student. So full-time study, I guess,
Yeah,
replaces the work time.
totally.
But I know that every day, I try and cultivate my stillness by I get up so I try and get up before 7 o'clock always, just
Yeah.
because if I get up at 7, it means I'm tired by 10 and I can get a good night's sleep. So that's the thing. And even just like, I know that sleep hygiene is something I think that is criminally underrated.
So good.
We very much so value this idea of like staying up late, 9 to 5 grind kind of thing. But have you guys ever gone to bed at like 10 o'clock? It's the best. It's honestly the best feeling ever. And then you wake up at 6:30 feeling completely refreshed. Like, I think that one thing I challenge a lot of students, because it's a much more student problem than it is a professional problem, I think, because, professional people are like tired by the time it's 10 o'clock. But just really ask yourself, what are the productive things that you do from like 10 to midnight, right? Like often it's social media, it's Netflix, like just cut that out. And if you still want to do those things if you still want to do those things in the morning, like when you wake up at 6 o'clock, just watch Netflix. Like it is, if you are that set on like watching that next episode of the TV show, I am criminally addicted to The Office. Like I don't think I've watched another TV show in a long time.
That's so good.
Yeah, I just play it in the background, but stuff like that, right? Like I think that especially when we get later in the day, we almost forget that we have control of ourselves, right?
Yeah. Mate, I agree with that for sure. I mean, it's like a joking point between friends that if they ever invite us for dinner, like we have to debate because I want to eat dinner at 5 p.m. and normal people want to eat dinner later than that. And that's like, but that thing for us of like, we don't have a TV at home. So I'll work. But then when we're done, like we don't just sit down and watch TV. Like we have Netflix, to be fair. So everyone's like, well, that's the same thing. But it's not like, it has to be intentional. And like, if I'm on Netflix, I can't be working. And like, I like working. So it's a very clear like distinction. But then with sleep, one of the things I've been doing for the last month at uni, I used to wake up at 5:53 in the morning. It's really random. There was a uni gym. It opened at 6. My buddy would pick me up in the car. And the latest, like an engineer, classic engineer, I optimized it. So the latest possible time I could set the alarm was 5:53. I had to get instantly out of bed, put on my gym clothes, go downstairs, and he'd be waiting there. It was like perfect precision. And so it became this joke of like 5:53 was the time we have to wake up. And I was doing these workshops when COVID started. We've done nearly 80. We'll have done 85 online workshops by the end of this week since COVID hit, which is ridiculous. And at the start, a whole bunch of them were around time management and motivation. I was literally having a shower before a session once, and I was just, as you think in the shower, I was like, I've done 3 of these, and I'm giving them all my best stuff, but I'm like, what is the thing that I wish someone had told me earlier that like I've just never said explicitly? And for me, it was like, just get up earlier. It's like, get up earlier. So I started this thing where I like put people in a Facebook group and called it like Club 553. And every day for like Monday to Friday for now a month or so, I've like taken a little selfie at, 5:53 in the morning and posted it in the group just to feel like consistency, Jocko Willink style of like this is the difference. But I get 8 or 9 or 10 hours sleep. Like, because as you say, if you get up at 7 or if you get up at 7 minutes to 6, like you're exhausted by 9 o'clock and then you have a great sleep and then you wake up fresh the next day. And like, we had a big thing I wanted to work on today. I was up at 5, but knowing I was speaking to you at 8 from 5 a.m. until like I made a cup of tea and I took my time. But 5 a.m. until 7:15, like I had 2 massively productive hours of work.
Definitely.
And so like, I can start my week by going, okay, wrote back to all my emails, designed an entire workshop beginning to end. Like, it's like, whoa, I've done like a big thing before the day's even started. And so like, I wish if students are out there, if you're like, how do I get through this like routine, like do something regular, like starting this show, sleep, as you've said. But 3, like if you can win the morning, you can win the day. I'm such a believer of it.
Definitely.
And if you're a lark, like if you're a night owl and not a lark, like if you enjoy the evening and you work better in the evening, same thing. But I hear lots of people who say, oh, I work best in the evening. And then I'm like, I look at their socials in the evening and they've spent 4 hours on Instagram. I'm like, that's hard to make the argument that that's the most productive use of your time, So I found that to be massively productive. It's interesting to hear you say that too around sleep and waking up at 7. Have you found that's something you've been able to stick to, or does it sound good
Yeah.
and then after 3 days you're like, actually 10 a.m.
So
sleep in?
I have a great story for that. I think that
Love
being
it.
able to wake up at 7 is definitely a doable thing, because
Yep.
you like circadian rhythm, your body, you end up just getting into a habit where, like, even if I go to bed late at like 11, like late at 11 o'clock, my body is still like, you've got to get up at least like 7:30, and by then, so it's like you might be off an hour, but I'm always out of bed before 8 because of just, and that's great. But one of the things that I try to do in my like posting every day for the month, I challenged myself 1 week. This is my second week, I think, to timing every single hour of my life to see where I could improve on. And one of the things I tried to do was meditate every morning. Like, so I get up at 6 o'clock and meditate and then start my day. And I thought that it would be a great idea to like set the tone of my day, but it was awful. Like, it is so hard to ask yourself to meditate when you've just gotten out of bed. Like, you are super tired, right? Like,
Yeah.
it is almost you close your eyes, you slow down your heart rate, your breathing, and then you just want to fall back asleep. So that was the Monday, and then just on that Monday, I scrapped it. I was like, look, I can't do this. But I decided on the Tuesday that I'll get up at 6 and then go for a walk, because
Yes.
going for a walk has been prescribed and recommended by like all of history, right? From Winston Churchill, Jane Austen, like Marcus Aurelius, literally all of history. Everyone just says, go for a walk, it'll clear your mind. So I did that, and that was beautiful. And I think that there really is something almost very like human about being able to wake up to the side of a sunrise, right? I wrote down in that month that I wanted to see every sunrise and sunset, because you really do just get to enjoy all of nature. And then so I did that for a week, and it was probably one of the best things that I did that week. But I burnt out near the end of it, and I haven't gone for those walks again. So
yeah, and I think that's the risk here, and that's what I want to be really cautious of like telling our stories of. It's really, I think it can be really like clickbaity to be like, oh, I did this thing once and now everyone should do it always. Or like, I did this thing for a week and everyone should do it always. So that's why I love the idea of like being that human guinea pig and doing things and trying things, but then having the humility to stick with that and go, actually, I did this for a week, but it led me to burn out. And then go, oh, okay, well, what have I got wrong there? And I worry that sometimes on social media, there's this, people can fall into this expectation on themselves to have it all figured out. Where I'm like, it's ridiculous to try to have it figured out at, ever in life, but especially, at 20, or at 25 or whatever age. Like, I don't have it all figured out. But yeah, that's where I think we've got to be very cautious of any conversation that talks about resilience to share our journey. I think Gary Vee does it really well, where he sort of says like the idea of just document over creating, like say what you're doing, tell people if it works. If it doesn't work, have the humility to be like, oh, this isn't working. Because like that. Yeah. I think the worst thing would be, someone messages you after a day and says, oh yeah, I'm doing it too. And you're like, awesome, you took my advice. And they message you a month later and like, wow, I kept taking the advice and now I'm totally burnt out, which.
Yeah, I think that one thing, so right now, a lot of people are talking about picking up new skills, upskilling, like this is the perfect time, right? But I think we have to be kind to ourselves and also remember that, we're currently going through a global pandemic. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to feel, honestly, I think that it's okay to feel awful right now. If you're in a bad mindset, I know it, like, I already don't need to harp on to those people. They're already beating themselves up enough about it. But I just think that you have to remember to almost forgive yourself for the feelings that you're feeling right now. Like, if you feel like the world is going to crap, like if you feel really scared right now, it's okay. It really is. No one's like, it is so unreasonable for you to think. Sometimes I think that the best way to figure out if you are being absurdly like in your head or not is to ask yourself, what would you tell a friend who is in a similar situation to you, right? Like,
I think that's good. I think that's a good insight. What would you tell a friend if,
Yeah. And then, so for example, if my best friend came up to me and said, "Hey, Dave, I'm feeling kind of awful right now. I'm in a very bad mental rut," I tell them it's okay. Like there are a million and one reasons for you to be feeling bad right now. Just take your time through it and slow down. Emotions don't just like pass in a day. I think that with the 5 stages of grief, like the last stage, acceptance, like it takes you a while to realize that, yeah, you were grieving. You were grieving at this idea that we've lost the world that we used to know, and we've kind of got to like reform, re-enter into like this
Mm.
whole post-COVID-19 world. And
I'd
just
love to see. I'd love to see that explored. Have you done a piece on that yet about the stages?
no, I haven't,
I think
because
that'd be
I'm
cool.
I'm still going through them.
Yeah, of course. I think that'd be an interesting thing to see you reflect on, like with some depth and some time. I'd love to
Yeah,
see your thoughts on that because I've never heard someone sort of use that as a framework for right now. I think that's a really interesting application of it. And I think you're right. I think you're tapping into some really interesting things there. One is like being kind to yourself, and then just on a practical level as well, knowing that like we can control what we focus on, and if we focus on what we have, and we focus on what we can change, and we
yeah,
focus on what is good rather than what we don't have, what we can't change, and what's bad, like that power of focus is enormous. You'll find
yeah,
what you focus on, and if we're looking for the good, if we're looking for the opportunity, we will find it. It is there. And it's also very much like you see a news article that says lots of Australians are out of jobs, and how could we possibly have been prepared for this? And it's the data from Grattan saying, what is it, like 40% of Australians have less than $1,700 or $1,500 in the bank.
yeah,
It's like a third of Aussies live paycheck to paycheck, and it's like it's knowing that some of these behaviors that we've been doing are kind of high risk, and that now the time's come, the 1 in 100 year thing has come. And when you do high risk behaviors in high risk times, like that's, you can get stung. And I think for students as well, we were reflecting before you got on universities changing their marking schemes. And if the worst thing that comes out of COVID is you get a bad grade and that drops your average mark by 1 mark, like in the grand scheme of things, it just means nothing.
yeah,
But I think it's a really good lesson to go, oh, when the option is to do the minimum, doing the minimum is probably not a good idea.
yeah, definitely.
Like when no one's making, we always say this in goal setting workshops, you leave uni and your professors aren't there to make you submit your assignments. So no one's making you work out. No one's making you save money. No one's making you take care of yourself. No one's making you improve your relationships. Like there's dependency on someone else to make us. I think is part of that stage of my big thing, with my service model, SERVICE, like I for internal locus of control. It's like we have to find the things we can control. Have to. Because as soon as we put that locus of control outside of ourselves, we give away all our power. We say, oh, we just need the government to come around, or we need the globe to come around, or we need Trump to come around, or we need the uni to come around. Like we give away so much of our control to make our lives better. And I just hope that this is one of those times when at least people who go through the workshops or hear us or listen to us go, okay, well, yes, it's tough. And yes, I can feel these emotions for a while, but we don't want to live there. We don't want to be in that groove until it goes so deep that like despair is all we know. But a moment of despair to make one realize, oh wow, maybe I have played some role in this, and maybe in the future I could play a different role.
Definitely.
As bitter of that is to swallow. And in the business world, that's that meme that's going around that, who helped us take our business online and digital in the 21st century. And it's like the CEO, the CIO, the CTO, and then it's like COVID down the bottom.
Yeah.
And for like my business, as much as so many others, like that's just the truth. People knew that we're in a digital world. We weren't doing enough about it. And I'm in a fortunate group where we've been able to regroup, but many haven't. So yeah, I don't know. I just really hope that people look at this as a time to go, okay, this is tough. We need to be kind to ourselves. We need to practice some stillness, as you've said. We need to sleep, as you've said. We need a routine. We need friends and family and people around us, not do this alone. But also we need that moment of stillness to take time and stock and say, okay, how am I forget the attribution, but it's like, how am I complicit in the circumstances I say that I don't want? And I think that's a really powerful question for this time. What have we done? If it's financial or if it's academics or it's in any other route, what have we done and how can we not make that same mistake again? I think that's a big lesson.
Yeah, definitely.
Dave, It's been really interesting chatting this through. And I think even for me, one of the things I always say with this, and I was sharing it to Seth Godin line, if you get one good thing out of a book, it's a screaming bargain. For 40 minutes of your time this morning, just that distinction between movement and motivation and stillness is something that I'm going to be thinking about, and trying to figure out, how do those two things fit best together?
Yeah.
For you moving forward, for the rest of your May, posting content, if people are going to follow your page, check you out, and they're eager to see what you're talking about, what are some things that you're thinking about, some things that you might be posting about or reflecting on? What's top of mind?
So one of the things that I love as a student is the fact that we have a lot more free time than working professionals, right? And one thing that I love to do is this idea of investing in hobbies. So I picked up playing, just to share this, I picked up playing the piano when I was 19 because I didn't get to do it in primary school, high school. It started in second year uni, just because I think we always tell ourselves we want to play a musical instrument, but it dawned on me, it's like, wait, when am I going to pick it up? Like in my 40s? Like yes. I kind of have to pick it up now. Well, not have to pick it up now, but if I don't try and actively think about picking it up now, when will I pick it up? Yeah. So I'm liking the idea of sharing this idea of like, how can we cultivate hobbies together? Because it's a whole lot more fun to learn things together than it is by ourselves, right? So I think that now is a great time for people to pick up hobbies if they're in the capacity to. And a lot of hobbies are free, right? Like you can even just reading. One thing I'd suggest is there's this thing called Project Gutenberg, which is like an open library of classics, like classic novels that you can just read for free. And so I like to read, as you can tell from my mini bookshelf behind me. They're like you can read like classic works like Charles Dickens, Jane Austen. Jane Austen's one of my favorite writers in the world. So I'd highly recommend people to have a look at that stuff. And yeah, so in this time, I'm just working on yourself, working to get yourself to like a life that you really enjoy living every day, being able to wake up and being like, yeah, I enjoy everything I do. Like there isn't one thing that particularly detriments me, kind of thing.
Yeah. I like that. And Sabrina's jumping in on the comment saying, love the brainstorming about intertwining stillness and motivation. It's a hard topic. I know pre-COVID, I was so busy and motivated with studies and extracurricular work. Since COVID, I've still been equally as motivated study-wise and work-wise, but I've learned to enjoy adding stillness and downtime into my routine. And I love this bit. Hoping once everything opens, I can keep reminding myself about taking time off to be still. I love that. I love the idea of, what are the learnings and things that we can take out of it and keep post, when things start to slowly return or, emerge, transform into the new working norms. So Sabrina and everyone who's jumped in the comments, thank you for joining us this morning. Dave, thank you for your time, my friend. If people want to follow you, check out your posts for this month, cheer you on, learn the sort of things that you're learning or think about the things you're thinking about, where's the best place for them to follow you?
Yep. Just find me on LinkedIn. Dave Brubeck. Just send me a message and I'm more than happy to discuss these ideas. My door's always open.
Cool. You're a good man, Dave. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you for your time this morning. And as always, stimulating. And I think I'm leaving with more questions than answers, which is always a sign of a good conversation. So thank you, my friend. Be well. Take care of yourself.
And thank you. Thank you. See you guys.
Awesome. Always. Bye, guys. We'll see you tomorrow for episode number 27 of Coffee with Canvas Consultancy. If you can join us, we'll be live at 8 a.m. as always. So today, take care of yourself, be still. And if there's something on your list that you need to do it right now. Get it done, knock it off today, and then take some time later to relax. Wishing you all the best, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
See you guys.
Bye. Done, Dave.